There's been an exodus of London's rich because of fears over the government's tax rate. And I'm a big believer in trickle down in terms of the fact that this affects everybody, because it's going to affect restaurants, taxis, cleaners, department stores, everyone. What can we do about that? Because there is a big narrative at the moment of the rich leaving London, many of whom are bound for places like Milan.
We've got to make more than one offer, not just tax. There are a number of things we do to attract people to London. So when you're somebody considering whether to invest in London versus Frankfurt, Berlin, Dublin, Paris, Barcelona, or to be a student here, or to be a non-dom, or whatever, there are a number of things you look at, right? Tax is one of them. I'll come to tax in a second, I promise. There are other issues. Quality of restaurants, the quality of culture, the quality of schools, the universities, sports, and so forth. So you say all these in the round. One of the things, though, when I speak to people thinking about investing here, who've not invested in the last few years, is the instability of our country. We've had 5 prime ministers just in the time I've been mayor. You've had Liz Truss's kamikaze budget, a 49-day prime minister, laughingstock of the world.
The rich are not leaving because of the previous 5 Tory leaders.
Well, I'm sorry they have left because of the last 5 Tory leaders. For every one person you could tell me who's leaving, I can give you examples of businesses thinking about investing here. And the proof is going to be the government, and we're working closely with the government, is holding an investment summit in London on October the 14th. If nobody turns up, your thesis is right and everyone's leaving because of this government. I want people to be wealth creators here, whether you're British or whether you're from overseas. I'm really proud. We have more than 100 unicorns in London.
Yeah.
Not in London.
Yeah.
I've got no problem with people creating wealth. I encourage it. Generates jobs and so forth. And I think whenever I speak to Rachel and Keir, they both understand how the ecosystem works. Neither of them wants people to leave this country. And I'm hoping that people recognise change is stability, because people haven't had stability for the last few years.
I think we'll agree to disagree on that one. But what do you hope to have achieved by the end of your 3rd term, an unprecedented 3rd term?
Yeah, look, I want people in 3.5 years' time to feel they're better off, they're safer, they're healthier, they think our city's fairer. I want London in 3.5 years' time to be considered a byword for opportunity, whether you're a young person, whether you're a business, whether you're a startup, whether you're an accelerator, whether you're a sports person, whether you're an artist. To think about London and the word association is opportunity. Okay. And over the next 3.5 years, working with the government, I call this a moment of maximum opportunity. Working with the government, we're going to help with their national growth agenda, but also make sure, rather than us being at fisticuffs with the government, them working against us, inverted commas, levelling up, working with the government to bring in investment, to make sure that City Hall is the helping hand for Londoners, for businesses, for entrepreneurs, for artists.
You flip-flopped over rent freezes. Do you want them or not?
I definitely want them.
Yeah.
And we're going to, by the end of this term, have 6,000 homes in London built where there is rent control. I'm working with the government to have more council homes being built and homes with social rent being built. Why? Because that enables people to pay a social rent, put money aside for a deposit, which otherwise, unless you've got Bank of Mum and Dad, you can't do. And the other key point I'm trying to get across to Angela Rayner, who's in charge of housing for this government, is the government's got an ambition to build 1.5 million homes, on a big chunk of those to come to London. Social rent homes, homes for rent, homes to purchase, market value homes, a combination of all those things, diversify the housing supply.
Any taxi I get into, and if I make the mistake of telling them what I do, I get an earful about you. Traffic in London is terrible. What are you going to do about it?
So we're a city now whose population is 9.7 million. I'll give you a compare and contrast. New York is around 8.2 to 8.4, depending which numbers you look at. So the size of London hasn't grown, geographically speaking. We're basically 400 Roman villages. Our population has grown humongous, in a humongous way. So we've got to think about how we get about our city, but also where we do leisure, work, play, study. We've got to encourage more people, if it's possible, that everyone can, to walk, cycle, use public transport. Currently it's 64%. 64% either walk, cycle, use public transport. To free up the roads for those people that need to be using the roads. Taxis, commercial drivers, buses, and so forth. So to your black cab driver, the more cars I can take off the road that don't need to be driving, people like you and me don't need to be driving, that enables less traffic for commercial drivers and black cab drivers. Congestion costs us money in terms of people being stuck in their car rather than fixing the leak if they're a plumber, or installing a wire if you're an electrician, or getting a disabled person from A to B if you're a black cab driver.
Oxford Street, what do you hope to achieve with this? Full pedestrianisation or what?
Well, I visit cities across the globe all the time, both as a tourist and as the mayor. And when I see it, what Barcelona have done with La Ramblas, when I see it, what New York has done with Times Square, when I remember my memory of Oxford Street, I had Saturday jobs in Oxford Street over a number of years, different outlets from Debenhams to Barrett's and elsewhere. And I compare and contrast my memory of Oxford Street with my experience of Oxford Street. Oxford Street, love it as we do, it's tired. It's got competition from online, from out-of-centre shopping centres. There have been flagship shops that have left Oxford Street. Candy shops have taken over and so forth. And so I've been frustrated at what should be a source of national pride has become a source of national embarrassment. Just imagine we could curate a space where, in addition to there being activity, pedestrian-friendly, green avenue or boulevard, we could think about how we can curate the evenings, how we can bring culture into
So entertainment venues?
Absolutely,
theatres.
Absolutely. Well, you know it better than I do. Evenings, it's tumbleweed going through Oxford Street. Why aren't we having pavement-style cafes? And here's the key thing for me. We can take residents with us, we can take businesses with us, but Oxford Street is really important to our national economy in terms of business rates, in terms of corporation tax, in terms of income tax paid by workers and employers. And so if we get this right, not only will the businesses benefit, but it's part of our growth agenda as well, but also somewhere I want to go that's pleasant, that's enjoyable, that's a destination.
Would you have any interest in resuscitating the Garden Bridge?
The issue with the Garden Bridge was the cost and the location. I am in favour of more river crossings, so I'm really pleased to have been the mayor that will carry through the Silvertown crossing in the east of London. So if you would stand on Tower Bridge and look east, there are 18 river crossings. I beg your pardon, look west, there are 18 river crossings. Look east, there are only 2. So we'll have another river crossing, Silvertown Tunnel in the east of London. In relation to pedestrianised bridges in the centre or the west, I'll look at each scheme on its merit.
What's the plan with the Gaza marches?
One of the joys of living in a democracy is I get people like you holding me to account. That's a joy of a democracy. I've got family and friends who live in countries where there is no holding to account people in positions of power and influence. It isn't just journalism, which is important. It isn't just voting, joining a political party. It's signing petitions, lobbying a parliamentarian or a mayor, going on protests, demonstrations, marches. I think it's something we should be really proud of, that even though I may not agree with what you're protesting about, you've got the right to protest in our wonderful city. There's a but coming up. But if you do protest, if you do protest, you got to act within the law.
Okay.
You got to make sure it's safe. You got to make sure it's peaceful, and you got to make sure it's lawful. So if anybody goes in any protest, whether it's a pro-Gaza protest or another protest, please, I'd encourage you to don't break the law, be peaceful, and be safe. If you're not, by the way, the police will step in. If not make an arrest today, they'll have gathered the evidence to make an arrest at some further date in the future.
What's your message for London's Jewish community?
I'm your biggest ally. I'm upset. I'm heartbroken. I'm angry that for the last year in particular, there have been many occasions where you've not felt safe going about our city. There have been occasions where you've been scared to leave your home. I've known for many, many years that if you go to a certain type of school, Jewish faith school, if you go to a certain place of worship, a synagogue, you require extra protection because you're Jewish. That can't be right. Anti-Semitism is the oldest form of hatred known to mankind. And those of us who aren't Jewish must provide allyship and solidarity and support and empathy and listen. I mean, I learned so much spending time with not just Holocaust survivors, but the children and grandchildren of them, but also spending time with those friends of mine who are Jewish, so I can understand how frightening it is to be Jewish.
Why are there 2 cycle lanes on Park Lane?
One goes one way, one goes the other way. Oh, do you mean the park one? Which one do you mean? Oh, it's very simple. The park is closed in the evenings, so you can't use it in the evenings. But also the park cycle lane is shared space with pedestrians and with cyclists. And pedestrians have been run over, almost run over, and are very scared to use that shared space. So what we've done is we've increased capacity by having a segregated cycle lane on the road, which means pedestrians aren't in danger of being run over.
That is an annoyingly rational answer.
Look, there's a great line in a Kevin Costner film, if you build it, they will come.
When you eventually step down, who would make a good mayor?
Somebody who feels the rhythm of our city, somebody who's forward-looking, somebody who's ambitious for this city, somebody who understands the values of this city. You've got to be pro-business. You've got to be pro-social justice. You've got to be somebody who lives, breathes and sleeps London. This isn't a job, it's a vocation, it's a way of life. I'm never off. And that's the sort of mayor I want of our city.
Would Grace and Perry make a good mayor?
He'd be great. They'd be great. I mean, this guy, I'm not sure what his wife would think about this, by the way, or his daughter, but this guy just gets it in relation to, I see him at events and we always have a chat, and there's always interesting chats, but he's got this great ability, which you've got as well actually, which is you listen. You may not agree with what the other person's saying is, but also he's engaging. I think it'd be great.
Will fixing Hammersmith Bridge be easier with a Labour government?
It needs to be, honestly. It's just a disaster what's happening in that part of West London. I mean, there are children who are going to make a long journey to get to their schools. There are families cut off from their parents because of the bridge being closed who need to use their car or a bus. The council can't afford to pay the £250 million it costs to repair the bill. We can't afford to pay for it.
So what is the solution? Because it is an embarrassment.
The government's got to step in. There's no alternative in relation to that. I know the council's speaking to the government in relation to those issues. We're lobbying the government as well. The government know that it's an issue of funding, and so I'm not sure. Bearing in mind that the £22 billion black hole, whether it can be done in the short term, but it needs to be done. It can't. Status quo is not an option.